Hi, and welcome to Radio OPAC. We are a division of the Ohio Prison Arts Connection. My name is Pat Wynn Brown. I'll be your host today. And hello to all of our audience members and our friends in the correctional institutions. And hello to our guest, Sara Abou Rashed. Hello, Sara.
Hello, Pat. Thank you.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Very, very good. And I want to, by way of introduction, let people know a little bit about you. Sara is a poet and a performer and a public speaker. She's also a senior at Denison, focusing on international relations and creative writing. And her work really does focus on humanity and identity and community, with an emphasis on language, both native and foreign, and the language we choose to denote self and other. And did I get that correct, Sara? Is there anything else that our audience should know about your work?
About my work, you described it perfectly, better than I would. I would say you're right. Issues of identity, of war, of exile are very prominent in my writings.
Yes, and with our prison population, we're working at Radio OPAC and at OPAC in general to connect all of us. And the sense of other really permeates society and politics right now. And how do you express about other in your work? And let me just pull up here your piece, What They Called Me. And you write, refugee they called me, immigrant daughter of an immigrant, granddaughter of an immigrant who never belonged to her homeland. And you go on, whom you must avoid on streets and look the other way, to natives who look like you. Can you tell me more about that and what inspired those lines in this piece?
Mm-hmm. This particular piece, What They Called Me, is unconventional in that it's a listing of all labels that I feel I've interacted with, either mostly forced to interact with, like refugee, immigrant, exilee. And these labels, I question them, I interrogate them in this poem. I interrogate the very thing that is labeling. In fact, I quote someone and say, what labels me negates me, right on top. And it's the very notion of being negated that I'm interested in. Why are we so focused on giving labels to one another or categories?
And the quote, that quote, what labels me negates me, is from Kierkegaard. Yeah. And many, many labels for the past few years have been used to degrade people, to minimize their importance in society for political gain. Have you been observing that? Since this is really germane to all of your poems and writings. Have you seen that?
Absolutely. I think it's only intensifying. To be honest with you, I'm hearing things like people in the past were able to be different and friendly to one another, but now that sense of difference is becoming a lot more violent, a lot more aggressive, unfortunately, a lot more, grounds for contestation, for battle. And it's a fine line between being different and being the same, right? I think ultimately we grapple with difference in new ways today only because this difference has been used against us, right? When you're labeled an immigrant, a refugee, and stereotyping emerge out of that, you want to challenge that label. And this is what I'm seeing right now, people challenging the labels, some people very much holding on to the labels, and some creating new ones altogether to empower themselves.
Yes, and we're seeing that happening. And I wonder if you have felt any increase in
Mm.
stress or tension or pressures on you when you just go about your daily life. Has it felt different? You came here when you were 12.
Mm-hmm.
You're now a college student. How old are you now, Sarah?
21.
21. And so you've been here. Has it changed in your estimation?
Mm-hmm.
What has been happening that you have seen?
It has changed in interesting ways. I think it was very intense when I first came here and realized just how different I was. Um, which now I wish I could go back to my younger self and say it really doesn't matter at that age, when you're 12, 13, 14. It was language, it was religion, it was the region I came from, right? I'm Palestinian and we escaped the war in Syria. So all of these differences weighed really heavily on me when I first got here, and they defined my experience in that I couldn't make friends easily. I found myself just disconnected from a lot of people in my school. And now, fast forward to more grown up, more aware of the world, I would say these things are still shaping my identity in prominent ways, but it's different now. It's more internal. I'm more at peace with who I am. I don't feel like I have to fight all the time, because truthfully, most of these things we can't change.
And you've pushed against these labels. You've done it personally. Your mother teaches Arabic at
Mhm.
Columbus State, and she may also have her own story of what she has dealt with, or maybe not. I don't know. But she's a wonderfully talented woman, and I want to mention her in a little section later about an experience we all
Mhm.
had. But these preconceived notions that come at you, and where does your sense of being assertive
Mhm.
and having that strength to challenge rather than either being submissive to it or just ignoring it altogether and putting it out of your head? You use it in your work,
Mhm.
in your art. Where did that come from? Does it come from your mother? Does it come from your
Mhm.
experiences, your grandmother? Tell me about that sense of strength.
That is a very interesting question you ask. I would say my strong sense of identity and the way that now I use it as a stamp to kind of distinguish my writings, my works. It comes from different sources. It comes from my mother, it comes from my experiences, it comes from history, from ancestry, from politics, but also from the fact that I I stopped looking at my identity as a limitation, and I truly, truly embrace it now in ways that I'm a lot more grounded in it. I write as an Arab American. Um, I speak as one. I live as one, and I've just found that when I do all of these things, living in my body, being in my identity, then I am bound to address them in my own personal way. Um, so it's a combination.
And your writing has truly helped you to be able to sort this out. And we know that with our incarcerated friends,
Mhm.
that often writing and art are ways to sort out what has happened, what is happening, what will happen in their lives. And you saw that firsthand before we discussed that. This phrase, art is an argument.
Mm.
Would you talk about that phrase, art is an argument?
When I say that, I mean that at any given time and any artwork that we make is constantly standing for or against something. And it's really powerful to look at it this way because, in this sense, we're all activists, we're all advocates, and we're constantly putting our priorities and the issues we care about out there.
And you have a show, a map of myself, that you've done in various cities across the country. I'm happy to have seen it, directed by Larry Smith, who has been on our show, and he does the 6-word memoirs. And hello, Larry, if you're
Hello,
tuning
Larry.
in. And would you tell the audience a little bit about what the show is about? Because you'll be coming back post-COVID to perform, and they won't want to miss it. What is the show about?
Okay, so briefly, a map of myself is 75 minutes of storytelling, of poetry, of role playing, where I share my personal story and the story of my family immigrating from different countries and, quite frankly, grappling with different identities and labels, like being refugees in Syria, taking citizenship in the US. I talk about DNA, I talk about moving across the world, and it was my way of telling my story and telling it entirely.
And you've written a piece that you have told me was difficult to write and took you a long time to write, and it's called War Apology. The lines begin, one August afternoon, a tank pulled up to our street, loud and loaded with, from my bedroom window, I could see the men milling. You go on later. As started pointing westward, he nodded, climbed back into the giant green thing, and disappeared. All night we wept on our knees, praise God for his mercy. And this is about being in a war zone, a child being in a war zone. And it took you years, I believe, to write that. What was the epiphany? What was the moment, the change that allowed you to express that fear and the scene that you were witness to? What did it take for you to be able to do that?
It took years for me to process what happened in Syria. I mentioned we lived in an area for Palestinians, and for a long time we weren't involved, and we're lucky it was the case. But toward the end of our time there, this poem, War Apology, is really the story of this one instance when a tank came to our street and the soldier descended from the tank and said, and carrying a map, and he said, he asked the men, is this street, right? He's not even sure of the name of the street. And they started pointing to a different direction. And later that night, we realized he made a mistake by coming to us. He really meant to go attack some other neighborhood. And toward the end of that poem, I say, it didn't even occur to us. We held harm's hand to the door of the right place.
Yes,
So
after that close, holding hands to harm's way.
After worrying about our safety, what really illuminated for me just a few weeks ago when I wrote this poem is that we quite literally held the soldier's hand to the place that he was meant to go, and we pointed him elsewhere to go kill someone else.
My goodness. Well, one of the experiences that you and I and your mother shared was to go to the Ohio Reformatory for Women in Marysville, where you recited poetry and talked with the women. And you had some revelations that day. And can you tell me about some realizations that were made for you that day when you met these women and the reception that they gave you, which was glorious?
Of course. I shared with you, it's still one of the most significant days of my life. And the reason being just the flippage of labels that happened, of identities that happened. I walked in there as a young Muslim woman wearing a headscarf, as this foreigner, and it wasn't until I walked inside and saw all the women that I realized you know, I'm free and I'm outside, and although I'm trapped by certain labels, it's the inverse, right? These are mostly American women who surround me. They're on the inside and they're looking at me with curious eyes, and I've never seen that look before. That look of um, I don't know how to explain it even today, years later, just the complexity of that moment.
It was a marvelous moment to behold from my viewpoint. And I remember the women asking if you could sing a song in your language.
Mhm.
And you hesitated because you were there to do poetry, of course. And your mother said, I can. And she came up and she sang a lullaby to the women in Arabic. And they had not a clue what was being said, nor did I. And it was so moving that women wept.
Mhm.
So did I. And then at the end they asked, what was it about?
Mhm.
And do you remember the song, the lullaby? Because I'm sure she sang it to you as a child. Do you remember which one? Because she said that it was about uh, her daughter,
Mhm.
and that no one was to hurt her or to break her wings, that
Mhm.
they were to keep her, be fragile with her because she's a fragile little bird. And that just opened up more floodgates because we are all very fragile.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
they recognized the fragility in you and your mother and what you had to face. And I don't know what their preconceived notions were when they met you. And you then had the revelations about you're free and they're not, and their faces looking at you with complexity of there are no words to explain it. But the words that you have in your poem, I Am America, which you're going to offer us in performance, is something so relevant to today. And so let me remind everybody, we are going to have a talk back with Sara live. So just go to the comment section and let us know your questions for her. So Sara, would you please give us I Am America?
Of course, of course, and thank you again for having me, and
You're welcome. Thank you.
for the remarkable trip that you took us on to the prison and the opportunity to share art, you know, while crossing the borders of language. Because you're right, my mom, you know, sang this Arabic song. I shared poetry, and it was, you could feel just the outpouring of emotion.
Yes, absolutely. So now I Am America, Sara Abou Rashed.
I do not know all of your names, but all of you do know mine. I am America, I am America, I am America, for America's one resilient woman who is loud, proud, strong, whose shoulders shelter continents, whose arms extend and reach beyond oceans. I am America, I am the voice, the face, the body of America. I am America, for I am different. For I know and feel and see and hear and love and accept and admire and defend and embrace my differences. I am America, for I don't want to be like everyone else, for everyone else is not even like everyone else. I am America, for I come from someplace else. آتي من خلف شواطئ المتوسط ولغتي العربية تجهلها ألسنتكم. أنا أمريكا. I am America. I am America, for I too have lost a founding father, a history, a legacy of the old wise men long ago gone. My constitution is one book they're leaving to dust. I am America, for I too have won a mother. The Statue of Liberty stands tall like the only family virtue you may not find in foreign blood, but you certainly breathe in air. I am America, for I am revolutionary. My revolutions are volcanoes. My voice rises and falls like hot lava on the hands of my oppressors. I am America that I protest. The Washington March spread like honey in my veins. Yes, honey, I say, because in America we are sweet and we stick together like this. I am America because no one can divide me. Your borders do not define me. My landscape is my pure dress, being stained with violent blue and bloody red. There are needles being put through me, scissors and sewing machines ready to redesign me, telling me parts of me they like and parts need cut, uprooted, taken out of the streets, out of my insides, out. I am America because I am one. It's all of me, it's all of us, or none. I am America, and oh dear America, I love you, even at times when you do not love me. I claim you even when you denounce me, when you tell me that I need to go back, that I simply do not belong, when you strangle me, handcuff me at airports, prison me, deport me, I love you still. And I grasp onto you like a child to its mother, even when you let go of me. And I wear your face, America. I wear your face of 13 stripes and 50 stars, even when you're too scared to look into mine, because I am not ashamed of you. I'm ashamed of what they've made you. America, they do not know you like I do. Thank you.
Sara, that was absolutely beautiful, absolutely needed for these times. And I hope everybody joins us for the Talk Back with Sara. Get the link in the comment section. Sara, I'll see you over there in the Zoom room. And I thank you very, very much. And tell your mother I said hello, will you?
Of course. And I'll see you all and answer all of your questions.
Thank you very much, Sara. All right, over we go. Stuck in our way. We're gonna make it happen. Do it today.